Welcome. I'd like to call to order the May 27th, 2022 special call meeting for the DeKalb Board of Registration and Elections. Do we have anybody to call roll, or should we just go ahead and do a motion to call the meeting to order?
Madam Chair, if you desire, I will call the roll of your members.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Susan Motter.
Here.
Anthony Lewis.
Here.
Nancy Jester. Okay, let's see. Kari Swift. There were two who did not answer, Madam Chair. Shall I call them again?
I don't see them on. Is three of us enough to proceed?
I would like to check with one member who said that they would be present.
Mr.
Okay.
Lewis is on the phone. I'm sorry. Did you already call upon him?
I did, and
I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's okay. And Mr. Metelsky, I am sending you a text because I think you will be able to get Nancy Jester to join us. If you will look at my text, please.
All right. I haven't received. Did I receive it? Yes, I did. Oh, just okay. Just send her the link. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes.
All right. Doing it as we speak.
I believe we do have a quorum with 3 members, Madam Chair. If you wanted to call the meeting to order,
Okay.
I will gladly assist you as you deem appropriate from there.
Fantastic. Okay. We've got a quorum, so this meeting is officially called to order. I'd like to give our County Attorney, Mr. Phillips, the floor.
First, I'd just like to address why we are having this specially called meeting. The reason for the specially called meeting is to meet to give the remaining time before certification Tuesday and have approval of a recount as soon as possible so that the remaining time between next Tuesday can be used to make sure we are prepared to certify this election. Tonight's lone agenda item, as I understand it, is to approve a recount tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And to be clear, if I may move forward past the reason for this meeting, Madam Chair,
Please.
we are asking, just so everyone is clear, DeKalb received a petition for a recount of the DeKalb County District 2 election results from the Democratic Party. And we are asking that this board approve the decision to hold such a recount tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And again, the reason for this specially called meeting is so that you can give that approval. The recount can be held as early as tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And the remaining time between Tuesday will be used to make sure the recount is successful and all of the election results are accurately provided in a certified report to the Secretary of State on Tuesday. So with that, I would like to call the 2 members who did not answer to see if they've joined, Madam Chair.
Please.
Nancy Jester.
I'm here.
So let the minutes reflect that you now have 4 members, and Kari Swift. Ms. Swift has not joined, but you do have 4 members. So again, we are asking that this board approve the decision to hold a recount of the District 2 election results tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And I would ask if anyone's so inclined to make such a motion and address it.
I move that we approve the action item as delineated by our attorney.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion, board members? Ms. Smith, is there anything that you feel is pertinent to add before I call for the vote?
No.
Okay. Great. Are we ready for the question? All in favor of approving the recount of the Commission 2 district race to take place tomorrow at 9 a.m., please signify by saying aye and or raising your right hand.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, signify by saying nay. That passes by a vote of 4-0. Yes, Ms. Mater.
Point of order, are we having public comments as part of this meeting?
That was not on the agenda or the notice, Ms. Motter.
Okay, I'm just asking the question. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there, yes. Ms. Vander Elst.
I believe the notice that went out did include a provision for public comment, and your bylaws do contemplate public comment at every meeting. But the board could vote to not proceed with that, or to amend their agenda or forego public comment.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Motter?
Yeah, the reason why I mentioned it, I noticed a voter, a resident of DeKalb County has posted a note in chat, and perhaps that person would like to make a public comment, hence my question. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Sure. So are we prepared to read the opening and invite public comment?
I can read the intro
Okay,
for public comment.
thank you.
Okay. Public comments of 2 minutes or less may be made live via the teleconference. For those joining the meeting by telephone, please be aware that your phone number may be displayed to the public viewing or participating in the online meeting. Citizens who attend the meeting via the Zoom link above may join the public comment queue by raising their hand in the Zoom application, while citizens who attend the meeting via telephone may join the comment queue by pressing pound followed by 2. There will be no comment cards, so when you are called upon, please state your name and address for the record. Also, please be conscious of speaking time so that everyone has an opportunity to provide input in the allotted time. Abusive, profane, or derogatory language will not be permitted.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Vander Elst. I will go ahead then, as just a friendly reminder, if you would like to make a public comment, please identify by using the raise hand feature or #2 if you are on our phone. Our first request is from Janelle Green. I will ask Janelle to unmute. If she would like to start her video, she may. And please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Janelle Green, and I live at 3213 Lindmore Drive in DeKalb County. I live in the Rehoboth precinct, and we are one of the precincts that was most impacted by the voting issues, with incorrect ballots being distributed and a number of other issues. I've spoken with all 3 of the campaigns, and I know that one of them formally submitted a request for a hand recount versus a machine scan, which is what I understand has been what you all are planning to do. And I would support a hand recount because of the fact that different citizens receive different ballots. I voted on election day. Mr. Don Broussard was on my ballot. I've spoken with persons in other precincts. Mr. Broussard was not on their ballot. So we have an election with inconsistent ballots and differing results, and now these issues with the potential with the results. And so I think the only way to truly address this is by a hand recount. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your comments. We'll do one more call. Anyone else? Public comment, #2, or use the raise hand feature. And at this time, there are no additional hands raised, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so this is obviously a bit irregular, since we had this sort of hastily called meeting, but I would like to, I may need some guidance from, some parliamentary guidance from our attorney in terms of getting some more information on the record.
I'm not sure what you're looking for, Madam Chair, in terms of more information. What I understood is this body was meeting to approve the decision to have the recount. That has been done.
Right.
Point
What
of
I also
order.
offer,
Point of order.
What is, yes, what's the basis? Vice Chair?
My question about order is, at this point, can we entertain further motions?
That's what I'm trying to ascertain from the attorney in order to have any necessary further discussion, because we had one item on the agenda, which we have already taken a vote on, what needs to happen if we would like to have further discussion on that item.
Well, I motion that we add an item to the agenda for the purposes of discussion of a hand count.
Is there interest in seconding the vice chair's motion?
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to add an item, a discussion item to the agenda for a hand count for the Commission District 2 race. All in favor, please signify by saying aye and raising your right hand.
yes.
Aye.
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 Did the vice chair vote?
I did. I voted aye.
Okay, all right, so that motion passes. So we've added that item to the agenda, and if
I may, before you begin your deliberation,
sure,
there are rules for how this must take place.
right,
And I understand this body is about to have a discussion about how this must take place. Rather than go through all of the rules with you here in this public meeting where we had one agenda item and met the notice requirements with the one agenda item, I just thought I would remind you to qualify your discussion so that your staff could make sure, as necessary, they are complying with the law, having heard your direction from today. And we will work with them to make sure whatever happens in the way of the procedure for a recount is in compliance with the law. So your discussion will be addressed by your staff after confirming that they do it in compliance with the law. But I don't want to sit in this public meeting and have a debate about what can and cannot happen.
right.
I'd like to make a motion.
You have the floor, Vice Chair.
Thank you. I move, for purposes of discussion, I move that we amend our last agenda item to reflect the desire of the board to simultaneously scan the ballots and have a hand recount of the names that exist on the physical ballots.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Okay. For the maker of the motion, can we ask Ms. Smith to give some insight, Ms. Smith or our county attorney, to give some insight on this and how or if it differs from the motion that we already passed?
I'll defer to the attorneys on that one.
I'm sorry, repeat the question, Madam Chair.
It is how or if the motion that's on the floor differs from the motion that we already passed. We made a motion and approved it to conduct a recount tomorrow, and now we're discussing a hand count. Is there a significant difference in what we've already passed and what's being discussed?
Yes, the decision to have a recount has already passed. You are now discussing the form for conducting the recount. And I addressed that with some general statements. In an effort to be helpful, I think you start with a rescan, and then after a rescan, if the circumstances are appropriate, maybe a hand count procedurally. I hope that's helpful to this body. But the motion about having a hand count, and I cannot put words in Ms. Jester's mouth, given my initial comments that we would take whatever this board offered and look at the law and make sure it's done in compliance. If the circumstances are appropriate and legally authorized, Ms. Jester's asking that this board direct a rescan and hand count. That's what I understood her motion to be the second time.
Okay.
Am I right, Ms. Jester?
It is, and if I may have the floor, I'd also like to make a comment.
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you. One of the reasons I suggest we do that is pursuant to a call I received today from a member of the State Board of Elections. That was their suggestion as a matter of the way we should conduct this, because they felt like that was going to also help make sure that, since the linear order of the issue is that we conducted logic and accuracy testing and noticed that and conducted that, then subsequent to that, there was software upgrades pursuant to a problem with the Republican questions on the ballot that then affected all of the ballot marking devices. But I'm not sure we ever noticed and did a subsequent LNA test for those pieces of equipment that were then used in this election. So we have some things that would benefit from checking both the scan and the physical name on that ballot. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Smith, would you like to address the sort of question that was inherent in the Vice Chair's comments about the LNA post, the update that was made?
Yes, that's,
Excuse me a second. With all due respect, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, yes.
We have notice requirements. The notice for this meeting was limited to approving a recount. A discussion about that recount was extended with how it would be conducted.
Right.
Now moving beyond the parameters of what this meeting was noticed for, and I don't think we should do that.
Understood. I appreciate that guidance. So in an effort to adhere to, not just adhere to, but honor the Open Meetings Act requirements and just standards of transparency. And I'm going to need some more guidance on this, Mr. Phillips, in terms of how to stay within those bounds. What you're recommending that we first conduct the machine count, and then at that point, I'm trying to understand what would be the trigger to say now we should or should not conduct a hand count, how or when we can make that decision or should make that decision. So I'd like to be able to come to a determination on that if we can here without stepping outside the bounds of our notice requirements.
Madam Chair, Ms. Vanderels is going to chime in with me. Your question, to be clear, is, I believe, within the bounds because you're talking about approving a recount, and we're sticking to the recount with this question.
Okay.
Your specific question was for information to this board about how the recount would be conducted, specifically for Ms. Vanderels and I to be clear. when you would move to a hand count after a rescan.
Right.
Ms. Vander Els has that information to share.
Thank you.
Yes, the state election board regulations for recounts contemplate that a recount will be conducted via the scanners, and that a hand recount would only be conducted if certain conditions were met, which relate to the performance of the scanners, or if there were litigation that mandated a hand recount.
So then we've got to determine for the machine, for the rescan, if there is not some indication of an issue. I just want to restate to make sure I heard it and understood it correctly, that if there's not an issue with the machine rescan, that the state election board guidelines do not provide for a hand recount?
That's right.
Okay. Okay. So is there any further discussion on this? We still have the vice chair's motion on the floor, and we've gotten some additional information on that. Any further discussion, or vice chair?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Lewis, you're recognized.
Sorry to chime in. I'm in the car, so
That's okay.
forgive me for out of order. So I understand that the state guidelines do not, or do they prohibit us? I guess I'm asking Ms. Vander Els, do they prohibit us as a board from asking for a hand recount if that's what we believe is necessary? Hello?
Ms. Vander Els?
Sorry, Madam Chair, please repeat the question for us.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes. So I'm wondering if the state law would prohibit us as a board from deciding on a hand recount if we decided that that would work best in this particular situation.
With all due respect, if I may,
Sure.
I started here and I'm back to this point. The law and interpretations of the law can be addressed by your staff as they go through the hand count. I understand the board's question, and we have generally explained that there's a scan and then possibly a hand count. We'll look at the circumstances with your staff. But the law requires the rescan, and if the circumstances are right, then we would go to a hand count. Okay, for the recount. Is that the question, Mr. Lewis? Are you asking,
well,
can you direct the staff to do it differently?
Maybe that's what I'm asking. What I understand the law as Ms. Vander Els stated it. However, yes, I'm asking as a board, do we have the authority under the law to decide that we would like a hand recount or a hand and a machine recount? Or are we limited to only having a machine recount and a hand recount under the circumstances written under Georgia law?
Yes,
so I'm
board.
have some.
I think
this is my.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lewis. Go ahead.
No, I was done. I just wanted to see if we have any autonomy in making that decision on how we conduct our recount.
And Ms. Vander Els, help us. I understand that the law is clear in that procedure and it is not discretionary.
Correct. My reading of the rule is that the recount procedure requires the use of machines and only a manual hand recount if certain other conditions are met related to the machinery.
Can you tell us what those conditions are?
There is, it's set out in the regulation, and I don't know sitting here what exactly they are. They're pretty technical in terms of what processes required to prepare and then use the machines. And if that process, if the requirements of that process are not met in some way, then a manual hand recount would be authorized.
In fairness to Ms. Vanderels, Ms. Jester, I would ask that this board allow us as your legal team to write you detailing the answer to these probing questions with the nuances of how a recount is conducted under Georgia law.
Can the VRE request a court order to conduct such a hand recount?
Again, the law is pretty clear. I don't know that I can answer that question without researching it, Ms. Jester.
Okay, so I think, and I'm going to recognize you in just a second, Ms. Motter. I think that where we are is right now we've got the motion on the floor to direct a hand recount, and our understanding of the law as articulated by our attorneys is that there are some specific guidelines, SEB guidelines, that dictate when we can and cannot put in place a hand recount. Ms. Motter, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just for the public so that the public understands, because we've had a lot of legalese. What I'm hearing is this is an instance where the law or the particular regulation or state rule that's in place where basically our hands are tied to a process that the state has put out, and our attorneys are making the recommendation that we can't be, quotation marks, more generous by having another mode of recount, i.e. hand recount, because the state rule is clear that we use the scanners. Okay, all right. Just want to make sure I've stated that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got a motion on the floor, and I'd love some guidance from our attorney / parliamentarian about how to dispose of the motion if it is, since it appears that it is not relevant at this time.
Well, I think what's appropriate, and Ms. Jester, I beg your indulgence to make sure I'm accurately articulating your motion. Ms. Jester moved this body to direct staff to rescan, and if circumstances were appropriate, hand count as a part of the recount of the District 2 election. Am I correct, Ms. Jester?
No, I did not. I did not say if circumstances are permit. I wanted to be specific and request that hand recount occur. So I want to be clear about that motion.
So what I would offer then.
And let me add one other question for you all, since you're there. Do we have, can an individual request a court order recount?
Ms. Jester, I've answered those questions. We will look at the law and we will write you. For the question you asked, Ms. Lohman-Smith, if Ms. Jester's clarification is understood correctly, then I don't know if the law would allow, as a part of the recount, a hand count after the scan if the circumstances did not warrant such a hand count.
Right.
I will amend my motion. But pursuant to one question, do you think it might be possible, is it the will of the board to perhaps maybe receive another briefing prior to the recount in the morning, maybe early 7:30 or something, so that we can look at the legal information that Mr. Phillips and his team are going to put together?
I mean, I'm open to hearing the will of the board. I think that where we stand now is that they're going to research what the particular circumstances are, the very technical circumstances that Ms. Vanderels referred to that would trigger the hand recount, and that they can provide us that. I don't know that we need a briefing prior to that because the staff is going to conduct that. And we've authorized the recount, so that's going to go forward regardless. The machine recount is where we have to start regardless of what other, what happens after that. So I'm not certain that there's a need, but I'm open to hear from other board members if that's something that you feel would be necessary or beneficial.
Madam Chair, in an effort to help this dialogue, if I may offer something.
You may, Mr. Phillips.
We have discussed the recount, and we have spent the bulk of the time after your approval of tomorrow's recount discussing the procedure for completing the recount with specific emphasis on whether or not a hand count would be a part of that process. Know that you can direct your staff as a part of the auditing process to conduct a hand count. That is separate from the recount process. But a hand count would in fact be conducted as a part of the audit process if that were a part of your preparation for certification on Tuesday. And I simply offer that as a part of this discussion because of Ms. Jester's motions and questions in an effort to give you an opportunity to address your desire for a hand count.
Okay.
I
So
I will accept that as a friendly amendment.
Vice Chair, just a moment. I want to be sure before we move in a direction that we can't move in, that we're still within our notice requirements, because we only noticed the recount. So we didn't notice anything about an audit. And
If I may, Madam Chair, I would like to, with Ms. Jester's permission, make a motion as I understood her comment, and she can confirm if the motion is accurate. The motion would be by Ms. Jester. So Ms. Jester, what I understood you to say is you would like the recount to take place through the legal procedure, and you would like a hand count to be done. And if the circumstances were such that it were not a part of the recount, you'd hope that it was a part of the audit and certification process going into Tuesday. Just as a motion on the recount, you added that for information purposes to your staff. Is that fair, Ms. Jester?
I will accept that. Yes, that's correct.
okay, so you've amended your motion. Do we have a second to the amended motion?
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion on that amended motion before I call for the question? Okay, all in favor of the amended motion and the details that were discussed therein, please signify by saying aye and or raising your right hand.
Aye.
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 All opposed, please signify by saying nay. And that motion passes 4-0. With no further business, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Y'all just want to hang out together tonight?
Second. I'm trying to turn my microphone on. My apologies.
I like you all a lot, but we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning the meeting, please signify by saying aye, raising your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.